Getting this out of the way, the Berserker is the worst job in Final Fantasy V. It's not useless, it can hit hard, sometimes, and has decent survivability, but that's where the good things end. Only being able to randomly attack means that it sometimes hits things in the back for half damage, if it hits at all. Its signature weapon is incredibly inaccurate and misses all the time. It can't use items to heal people, it can't switch rows, which makes it super susceptible to bosses like X-Death who use Dynamo. It can't even use the defend command. Not that it would, but still. And that's not even mentioning that some fights are actually completely disadvantageous to bring a Berserker into. If you have to keep a party member dead during a 4-job Fiesta run to have an easier time, then something has gone horribly wrong. But whatever, that's not what we're here for. This is about the second worst job, and I've come up with a list of contenders. After playing a few runs on this channel with a lot of jobs, I think this list will be fairly accurate in what most people would consider bad. I think most people would have the consensus that it's either Dragoon or Dancer, and it's a good thing both of their names start with D since that's the grade they've earned. I lean towards Dancer being worse than Dragoon, but I'll be objective here for a second and give an overview. The Dancer's high points are being able to equip a Ribbons, one of the two best headgears available, and having Sword Dance, an extremely high damaging physical attack. However, they have the lowest HP stat of all jobs despite being a frontliner. Sword Dance is 50% chance of occurring at best, and the rest of their abilities and skills don't matter because Sword Dance and the Ribbon are the only reason you give a shit. I'm seriously curious if anyone has ever given a shit about or used the Man-Eater. On the other side, Dragoons have a decent physical stat spread, having good strength and high HP, along with being able to equip heavy armors and shields, meaning their survivability kicks the shit out of the Dancer, but Spears, their signature weapon, are aggressively mediocre, being one of the worst melee weapons due to lack of availability and low damage. Plus, their two active abilities, Jump and Lance, are really bad. Jump in particular is so bad, I'm kind of curious how it made it into the final game. It does double damage only if you're holding a spear, so otherwise it's not worth using. And even if you do use it, being untargetable means your other party members eat all the aggro. Lance is an extremely weak heal that theoretically could be used by mages to keep your MP up, and the game even tells you to do this, but MP getting low is rarely an issue outside of bosses, and not worth using a whole ability slot for during bosses. I am 100% convinced that the devs thought the Dragoon was actually going to be an amazing job. Why else would some enemies have anti-jump skills? And why else would that note that tells you about mages using Lance exist? I am in the minority here, but like I said, I'm on Team Dancer. Their damage potential is extremely high, but 50 to 75% of the time they're doing nothing, and they have to be risking their lives in the front row to be most useful. With their horrible HP and light armor, and not being able to get their best armor until the final dungeon, they're way too inconsistent for my liking. Plus, you get a knife that just does the dance thing without the Dancer, if you really want to gamble on that. Dragoons are also very bad, but I personally find them excessively mediocre. Undoubtedly one of the most boring jobs available at best, if not the most. Their survivability with heavy armor, shields, and I guess jump makes them way more consistent, even if their overall damage is way lower on average. I will say that Dancer is a way better team player because giving Dance to actual front row jobs and equip Ribbons to anyone makes them nichely useful. Dragoon is just selfish. No one wants to use spears if they can help it. Jump is only usable with spears and is still bad anyway, and Lance might as well not exist. Even if I am firmly on one side, there are absolutely arguments to be made either way. Geomancer takes the inconsistency from the Dancer in a different direction. I'm not personally a fan of the random chance commands like Gaia or Animals, but Gaia is probably one of the better ones, having some insta-kills and good but unreliable party damage. The job's main issue is with bosses, of which there are a lot, and boy does it struggle there. A surprisingly high amount of bosses are mostly immune to or heavily resistant to Gaia, like Soul Cannon being immune to all of the wind attacks it uses, or World 2 X-Death taking chip damage from Gust and being immune to the percent-based Sonic Boom. This kind of thing happens with a whole game and it's just frustrating, not to mention its selection of bells is lacking, to put it nicely. The legendary bell is underwhelming, the boosts all elements bell is a rare drop from the final dungeon, and the other two bells might as well not exist. At least it gets a small break during Neo X Death where Wind Slash is guaranteed. Just equip an air knife and go to town. I don't think Geomancer is bottom 3, but it's unfortunately down there. At least it's quick to master. I've gone over this many times already, but Thief is basically impossible to rank conventionally because it's 5's only non-combat job. Its low stats and generally poor equipment selection make it ill-suited for most bosses, but Steel is amazing when it works. Avoiding back attacks is so nice that you'll hate when you switch off of it and instantly get back attacked. Mug is great for a chicken knife command, it has its own niche. But again, bosses like Necrophobe and Neo X-Death will make you regret having one, so you always have to be wary. The more I played through these mediocre job runs, the more I was wondering if Monk was actually worse than Thief. It has a lot less niche uses, that's for sure, but being the job with the highest strength, you don't exactly expect it to do much else. Dedicated melee jobs suffer in 5 immensely for relying on level much more than magic jobs, and Monk doesn't get anything to supplement that until the disappointing Kaiser Knuckles in the Great Sea Trench. Focus is cool to have to skip boss phases quickly or avoid counterattacks, and Fist being able to crit gives them a cool X factor that can literally punch through tough bosses, but neither of those are something you can rely on for the whole game. There will be a falling off point eventually. At least the Monk has a ton of HP, and makes them decent item throwers if you stick them in the back row, but it's kinda depressing to see a job like that relegated to such a role. As mentioned, most people were probably going to go with Dancer or Dragoon, but surprise! This video and those polls I did were complete misdirections. My pick for the actual second worst job is Oracle. This job's pros start and end with has the highest magic stat, which isn't even something you'll use for the Oracle. You only care about that for mastering the job to give it to your mime. They can also equip staves, but who gives a shit? Condemn is so lame and Predict is so horrible that it cancels all that out 10 times over. Condemn has 5 of its 8 options nullified by the existence of an instant death command, and the remaining 2 are crippled versions of white magic, or even just using a high potion. Predict is a wiki command alongside blue magic and mix taken to the worst logical extreme possible. It requires setup time to be usable, but the effects aren't worth setting up for. The damage you can inflict on yourself is so ridiculous, and even if you make yourself immune to the backfire, the damage inflicted on the enemy isn't even good no matter what the strength of the spell is. I actually have nothing positive to say on the Oracle. The hyperbolic section of my brain wants to say it's worse than Berserker, but I know that's not true because it can use the healing staff and items. And if you disagree with my choice here, what are you gonna do? Use the Oracle? Yeah, okay.